Okay, everyone. I guess we'll get started now. If everyone could please take a seat. And if you have not yet signed in, please do so. So this way, we will make sure to send you your ballot if you are a member in good standing. Welcome everyone to the February 2024 endorsement meeting of the Independent Neighborhood Democrats. I am Seamus Cable. I am the president. Thank you, but completely unnecessary. Before we begin, just want to mention the Independent Neighborhood Democrats welcomes debate and discussion on topics of concern to the members of the community and by candidates for office and others. IND believes in the free political speech, but believes that personal attacks, profanity, imitating or threatening gestures or words, attempts to silence speakers, or similar inappropriate behaviors are unacceptable. Individuals engaging in such behavior will be asked to leave. So we have a pretty busy agenda this evening. So just a few housekeeping notes for everyone. At our last meeting, a candidate named Laura Thomas, who was running for the 10th Congressional District, spoke to us. We have since learned that she has decided to drop out of the race, so she will not appear on tonight's ballot. Second thing is, some of you may have heard that there was a candidate named, and I apologize if I butcher this, Abiyomi Ajioma Awint. She has informed us earlier this evening that she will not be running this year, so she also will not be appearing on her ballot. And finally, there was one candidate who originally was going to speak, Khalid Salam. He is running for U.S. Senate against Senator Gillibrand. When I will say this, emailed him to confirm. I explained the parameters, which is going to be for each candidate, they have 5 minutes to speak, and then 5 minutes of questions and answers from our members. He insisted on 15 minutes to speak, no question and answer from the audience, and that because he felt that every question that we could have would be available answered on his website, and also if there were any questions, to email them ahead of the meeting. I kid you not, and he is absolutely serious, Ira, and sorry. I said, these are our rules. It's unfair to other candidates for you to have any sort of special treatment, and it's also unfair to our members. So therefore, he chose not to come. He did ask me to forward the correspondence to the entire membership. However, since it had his personal contact information, I did not feel like having the club accused of doxing. So if anyone actually wishes to read said correspondence, it is available on the table there. So, yes. With that, okay, we do have one speaker before we get through into endorsement, or into hearing from candidates. Yes, we have a representative from United for Childcare. Sorry, United New Yorkers, New Yorkers United for Childcare. Sorry. Yes. Would you like to come up? Yeah.
Thank you guys. Oh, great. Thank you so much.
We have Zoom people, so that's why we use mine.
Hi, Zoom people. Oh, hi, Assembly Member Simon. Good to see you. Hi. Thank you for having me here. I'm Rebecca Balin, Executive Director and co-founder of New Yorkers United for Childcare. We are a brand new organization made up of parents, would-be parents who grandparents and New Yorkers who are really feeling the squeeze of the cost of childcare, who feel like this city is not sustainable for working and middle class New Yorkers, and who are really upset by the fact that the mayor is cutting pre-K and 3K, beloved programs, many parents are deciding to have kids in New York because they thought they could depend on the promise of pre-K and 3K. And now you can't, right? Because the mayor is pulling the rug under that promise and so we think that with just basic community organizing by building parents and other New Yorkers into a political constituency that is powerful and that our voices are heard, we can not only reverse the cuts to pre-K and 3K, but we can win free childcare for all under 5 in New York City and state. Oh, right. Yes, I think somebody will sign our petition here. So that's what I was going to say. I'm going to keep it brief because I know y'all have a lot going on today. But first, I'm going to tell you how you can get involved. And I don't know if there's time for like a couple questions. Okay, and then
we got some time, so
perfect. But I will keep it brief so that you guys can move it along. Oh yeah, so there's a few ways that you guys can get involved right now. I'm holding these petitions that, you know what, I'm just going to start circulating to each side of the room. And you can get it online. I can share the link with you.
That'd be perfect. Thank you. Yes. We'll send it out to our members.
Oh, yes. Perfect. Yeah, I'll share the link with you because I know there's folks on Zoom. So I'll start here. Here's a pen. There you go. You can just pass it around. So sign the petition. That's to the mayor. It's to say, stop the cuts. The numbers are actually off because that was before he cut even more funding from 3K and pre-K. He's saying there's not enough seats. I mean, there's too many seats and not enough kids. We know that's not true. They are not conducting the outreach and the advertising. So that's the first thing. Sign the petition, get involved, put down your info so that I can get in touch with you and invite you out to things. One of those things that is coming up on Sunday, March 17th, in the morning or throughout the day, we're doing a citywide day of action I think right now we're in Ditmas Park, Jackson Heights, Astoria, and Washington Heights, where we'll be collecting petition signatures and getting the word out to folks at playgrounds and other areas across the city. So if you want to join on that, you can go to our website at unitedforchildcare.org and check out our events. So that's the first thing is we need to get the word out. We need to organize folks, get them involved. We need to make our voices heard. The mayor thinks that he can do that because he hasn't been hearing from New Yorkers. He hasn't been feeling that political pressure. There's sort of this silent majority of folks, and we need to be organized to be heard. We also need to call our council members. They are usually on our side, but as one council member said when a grandparent actually called her, and I won't name names, was we have a lot of issues. And that's the point, right? This issue needs to be at one of the top. It's an economic crisis for New York if people like us in this room leave. Middle class and working class New Yorkers are leaving, Black New Yorkers at a higher rate. It's a crisis for our economic diversity, our racial diversity, and what makes a city great, unless we want this to be a city for only the wealthy. And so we need to make sure that our city council members know that it's a priority for us. We just call them, say, hey, you're probably already supporting this, but I want you to know it's a priority for me. So we have a script on our website as well. So that's amplifying our voices, help us get other people involved. We also have a letter from grandparents. Are there any grandparents in the room? Okay, we have one grandparent in the room. Okay, we have a letter on our website that I will send around as well. So anybody who knows a grandparent, has parents here, and you have kids, have them sign it. We want to get a couple hundred grandparents to sign and send it out to the mayor to say grandparents are bearing the burden of the child care crisis. And they want that to change. And then the final way, if you guys are able to, I have donation forms. We are a brand new organization right now. It's only me on staff. So if you could donate anything you want, it's going to make a huge difference, right? And at $10 a month or more, I might have an example here. I'll look. We have little onesies that say, I want free childcare. And so if you do $10 or more a month, it's only 120 a year. You get either a onesie or we're making toddler tees and they're real freaking cute. So highly recommend those. And I might have donation forms with me, but I'll also pass those around. Or I'll send the link as well. So I'll shut up and see if folks have any questions while y'all are signing the petitions. Oh, sorry. Yes.
Yeah.
Hi.
Question that I know is more than a 30 presentation,
Huh.
but just because I know
Well-
some of your work doing equity
Yeah.
issues, and just kind of curious, anything you want to share about, since so many of us work on policy issues, organizing issues, how to affect change? Like, what are your goals to make sure we get childcare for everybody? And just like, we'd love to hear some of your tips because you are such a great organizer.
Thank you. What's your name?
Susanna.
Hi, Susanna. Yes, I think what you were asking in sum is how do you win? Is that okay? Super easy. No. Except what?
Extends the meeting time.
No, I won't be 30 minutes. I don't think. And by the way, this is the onesie, super cute, $10 a month or more. And we have some toddler tees. If there's anyone having a baby in your life, you should get one. Anyway, and I'm passing over donation forms if anyone wants to do it. So how do you win? I mean, so that question is what drove me to and some others to co-found this organization. As you mentioned, I got my start in transit organizing. I started at Riders Alliance. Do folks know Riders Alliance? They organize subway and bus riders for better public transit. I was the very first hire back in 2012. And I organized and ran the Fair Fares campaign, which is now an established program for discount metro transit fares for low-income New Yorkers. I helped to win congestion pricing. Some of you will be thrilled. Some of you will be angry at me for saying that. And I have worked on many other campaigns on other issues over the years. And so that is my primary interest is how do you win campaigns for policies that make a very clear impact on people's lives. And it's sort of kind of simple. You need just basic political power. It's in this space is similar to what happened in the transit space. There are so many child care advocates and experts, policy experts, issue experts. But there was a few things that were missing that I think, and I know, frankly, are necessary to win. So there was missing a single issue organization. Every single organization in working on the universal childcare issue is multi-issue, be it immigration or child poverty or education. They were pulled in so many different directions and they're necessary for this fight, but you really needed a single issue organization, somebody who's just working on one thing. The other thing I'd say is basic community organizing of a broad population. So the only community organizing that does exist really in this space in New York is with childcare providers and the workers. Super important, not irrelevant, but missing are people like me, would-be parents, right? When I started to think about this, I had got married in 2022 and I'm like, if I have a kid, I'm not wealthy. If I have a kid, it's going to be really hard between the cost of childcare and the cost of housing now to move out of my apartment, get a 2-bedroom and pay $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 a year in childcare per kid. And I realized people like me were not being tapped for this fight. I'm like, that's bizarre. Everybody in this room is politically powerful and we should be tapped in this fight. And so kind of like single issue organizing and making it really simple, right? It's just basic democracy. Our elected officials need to hear from us. The mayor needs to feel like pre-K and 3K is not only untouchable, but he should be feeling like it should be expanded. And so we want to use things like press attention, rallies, like different hooks and training folks on how to do this. So just like really basic, if you're taking a picture, I'll do that. Really basic community organizing, old fashioned. I hope that answered your question. So we'll just go in. No, I like to win. I like to win. And I think and I will say, I think this is a winnable fight. As I mentioned, so I think the number is something like 80,000 New Yorker, no, sorry, 80 80% of New Yorkers cannot afford the cost of childcare. That means it's like taking up, I don't know what the actual number is, but a very large 50% or more sometimes of somebody's income. They're paying for childcare. This is something that crosses, and so even, and we've seen articles in like the New York Times that even people who are we would consider upper middle class, borderline wealthy, are struggling to afford it. Like that is crazy. So we really have an opportunity to build something truly powerful here, really powerful movement. And it's not like when I say free childcare for all kids under 5, we're like, that's impossible. But we have universal childcare in pre-K and 3K. We just have to save it and we can expand it. Any other questions?
We have one more question. It's from the chat. From Alice Mingus. How are you building an intersectional coalition? Have you done outreach to domestic workers, orgs like NDWA and Carroll Gardens Association?
Yeah. So what I'd say is we're not a coalition. That's the other thing that exists. There are strong coalitions that already exist. And NDWA is a national organization primarily, but I am in touch with some of the local groups here too. I talk to the Empire State Childcare Coalition on almost a weekly basis. I'm in touch with the city groups like Daycare Council. I've not been in touch with Carroll Gardens Association about this, but would love to chat and with them and would be totally. So what I would say is I'm working with folks, but my role is to not to build a coalition, but to build a movement of constituents and residents in New York. And we don't have any onesies for the grownups yet, but the more members we have, the more money we will have to get some swag for the grownups. And any ideas you have, we need to figure out what they should say. So, Philippe, I want to see those.
Is there anything else that we can do? Is there like any sort of resolution you'd like us to write?
Oh,
yeah.
Sure. Yeah. What do you guys do?
Commonly, if there's groups that like we're really impressed by, we'll try. If the book club so chooses, we will write a large resolution in support. And also try to usually direct it toward our elected officials, trying to say, hey, this is what we want, or this is what we want you all to like focus and make a priority.
Great. Yeah. Let's do that. Whatever you guys want to do.
Okay.
Let's fight together.
The chair will entertain a motion to have us write a resolution in support of New Yorkers United for Childcare. Is there a second? Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Ayes have it. So, okay, the executive board will work on it. We'll be in touch then on like some language and stuff, and we'll bring it to our membership at the next meeting.
This was so hard, guys. Thank you so much. Thanks for letting me have time. I know you're really busy tonight, so thanks for all the work y'all do.
Okay, so we're moving right along. Now we're actually into the candidate portion of the meeting. So we're going to go sort of by ballot order right now. So basically how everyone will appear either on your June or November ballots. So is there a representative here from Senator Gillibrand's office by chance? Or campaign, I should say? Okay, none. Did Marlon Rice come? See him? Don't see him. Okay. As a note, Marlon Rice is the candidate running in Senate District 25. We have reached out to him to see if he wanted to come speak. We have not heard back, but thought maybe just make a surprise appearance. I don't think Senator Gennardis is on yet. So I guess up next would be Scott Budo, who is running for New York State Assembly Assembly District 25. Hold on one second. I'll pin him up so the audience can hear him and see him. I apologize. I'm doing like triple duty this evening, so please bear with me. 52nd. What did I say?
You said 25. So flip it up.
Yeah. Okay. Let's hide that and hide this. Okay. Scott, you got 5 minutes, and then we'll take Q&A. I'll let you know. Okay. Ready to go?
Great. Well, thank you very much. Hopefully everyone can hear me. So yeah, my name is Scott Budo. I'm a Democratic candidate for the 52nd Assembly District here in Brooklyn. So just in terms of a little bit of background about myself. So I am a father as of about 6 months ago. I'm an attorney, a former adjunct professor of law. I've lived here in the district for nearly a decade. and I'm a born and raised New Yorker overall. In terms of why I'm running, so my top priority, without a doubt, is addressing the housing affordability crisis. Simply put, I think it is way too expensive to live here. I think the basic reason for that is that we haven't built enough housing here in the city or throughout the state, really for decades. So I strongly support Governor Hochul's New York Housing Compact, which would add about 800,000 new units of housing across the state, including here in the city. Additional priorities, just very briefly, include equalizing education funding. So we have the most unequal education funding scheme of any state in the nation. I think every child should have an equal shot, and that means reforming the way we fund our schools in the first place. I also want to make New York the first state in the nation to eradicate hunger. We could do that for less than 1% of our state budget. Hunger is an issue which affects more than 2.2 million New Yorkers, including more than 600,000 children. So I think we should tackle that problem. Then finally, just in terms of top priorities to address gun violence, I have kind of a novel solution here. My plan is to close gun stores in New York State. I know that that'll be subject to challenge in the courts, but I've written as an attorney about why I believe a proposal like that would ultimately pass constitutional muster. I'd welcome your questions. I imagine people would like to know why I'm challenging Joanne, and I'm happy to answer that very forthrightly. But yeah, thank you very much for your time, and I look forward to answering your questions.
Okay, so we are really under time, so you get a few extra minutes, I guess, to answer questions. Anyone have a question in the audience?
Yeah. Why are you challenging Joanne?
Yes. The anticipated first question. So I disagree with Joanne on two issues in particular. I don't have any issue with Joanne on a personal basis. I haven't said anything negative about Joanne on a personal basis, and I have no intention to. On the two issues, so I told you that housing affordability is my top issue. I absolutely believe we need to build more homes here in New York, and that will reduce price pressures. Joanne takes a very different approach. Joanne describes herself as quote unquote generally anti-development. She opposed the governor's plan, the New York Housing Compact, which I said I support and which is my top priority. She has sought to delay or oppose other local housing developments in recent years. So I think, philosophically, there is a very clear divide between the two of us on how to address our acute housing shortage and our housing affordability crisis. I absolutely agree with progressives like Senator Elizabeth Warren that we need to build more housing ultimately to address our affordability crisis. Joanne takes a very different approach. Secondarily, on campaign finance reform. So, New York State, I should say, now has public funding for campaigns, particularly to amplify the voices of small donors in district, which is an amazing program. Joanne, along with the Assembly and the Senate, voted to sabotage that program. Now, I know that's a strong word. That's not my word. That's the word that the New York Times editorial board used to describe her vote, and I should say the vote of the Assembly and the Senate. Other good government groups like the Brennan Center for Justice, Common Cause, League of Women Voters, all said essentially that was an anti-democratic vote. I don't think we should elect Democrats who take anti-democratic votes, especially this year when democracy itself is very much on the ballot at the top of the ballot.
Okay. Okay. Any questions from the audience also? Okay, and we have one in here.
I love the way you talk about affordable housing. What's affordable?
Well, yeah, I don't know how to answer that in the abstract. So I don't really. Do you have any more specificity on that?
Yeah. Whoa. Okay. Here's the issue. Every time I see affordable housing in New York City, it tells you between X amount and X amount, and it shows you that you have like an $80,000 range, like between $38,000 and $90,000, and it tells you the rent is only a one-bedroom apartment, $1,800. due to the fact that the average New York City income is about $60,000 a year. Take out your taxes, you're down to 45. How do you afford $1,600, $1,800 a month rent? So what's affordable?
Yeah, well, in this district, I would definitely take 1,800 for a one bedroom if you could find it. I don't think you will. What's affordable is, it depends on the area. It depends on whether it's a one bedroom, a two bedroom, a three bedroom. I can tell you what's not affordable is the average rent in Brooklyn right now, which is about $4,300 per month, at least as of the summer. It's certainly not affordable in this district when the average home price for a two bedroom is $1.3 million. So for those of us, particularly, in our 30s and 40s and 50s who are maybe looking to buy, it is incredibly not affordable for that to be an option. I can tell you if you're the average renter, couple in Brooklyn with one kid, as I am, between childcare, which we heard a lot about before I spoke, and rent for your average apartment, you're spending about $7,000 a month, which means, married, filing taxes jointly, you need to make $120,000 a year in salary just to pay for those two expenses. That doesn't include food, electricity, any of the other things that you, of course, need to live, much less anything that you need to make life enjoyable. So New York City right now is very much not affordable, and we need to take a different approach. And ultimately, I think that starts with building more housing to address affordability. We have seen in other areas that have relaxed their land use rules, which is really what I am proposing that we do, that rents actually come down. So I would cite to you Boise, Atlanta, Phoenix, Austin. I would cite to you Portland, Minneapolis, New Rochelle, Tysons, Virginia. In the first four, rents actually came down. In the second four, they went up after land use rules were relaxed, but they went up by a lot less than the national average over the same period of time. So, allowing for more housing will make housing more affordable. And I think we ought to bring that approach to New York.
Hi. The
This is our last question. Okay. Yeah.
the 52nd Assembly District encompasses Brownstone, Brooklyn, which
Yeah.
also encompasses landmark Brooklyn, where how do you thread the needle where people who live in landmark districts and have shown themselves to be opposed to development, and how do you get votes if you're going to win this
Yeah.
race? If you're going to encourage development, when I would bet a good hunk of the district, a good hunk of the voting district is actually probably opposed to development. Is probably not really in favor of development.
Yeah, well, I think we're going to see. I call a lot of people in the district to try to get support for this campaign, and I have been surprised at the number of people who live in brownstones and who don't take that approach. So I think we'll see. That's a big reason why I'm running. I don't think development runs through landmark Brooklyn Heights, just as a practical matter. If you were to lift the Florida area ratio cap, which is really what Governor Hochul is proposing, development would be in downtown Brooklyn, in Long Island City, in the financial district. That's kind of where development would initially occur. So it would not occur in Brownstone, Brooklyn. But yeah, I think we need to have a debate about that as a district, about whether this approach of opposing development is working for all of us. And it's my belief that it's not.
Okay. So thank you. Oh, thank you so much. With that, we'll move on to our next candidate. Thank you, Scott, for coming.
Thank you.
Okay. So next up, I do not see Sander Gennardis here. So with that, we will then move on to civil court for countywide. For which there are 3 openings right now. So go in order of how I saw them come in the room. Joanne spoke at our last meeting. Yeah. So yeah, anyone candidate who spoke the last meeting will not be speaking tonight. Yeah. So first off, we have Alexis Riley. Yeah.
Okay.
Let's wait and people on Zoom can hear.
Okay. Good evening. My name is Alexis Riley and I'm running for civil court judge countywide. I'd like to share some of the activities and events that led me to appear before you this evening, asking for your support. Upon graduation from law school, I was a paid organizer for President Obama's 2012 campaign in a red state, in a red county in a red state that we helped to turn purple. I am the daughter of a Marine colonel who defied stereotypes to become the Democratic Party chair in a red county in a red state, and who also worked to help turn that county purple. I'm the lacrosse player who earned an athletic scholarship to LAU Brooklyn 2 decades ago and have become a proud Brooklynite. I'm an attorney who has had the opportunity to serve as the principal law clerk to two of the best and most forward-thinking judges in Brooklyn. I'm an adjunct professor of political science at Pace University. I'm lucky enough to have two of my students here tonight, Sam and Alexis. I am a mentor to youth as a Girl Scout leader and a youth lacrosse coach, an experience that allowed me to meet your former president, Alyssa, years ago when we first coached together. I'm also a cancer survivor who had to learn how to maneuver the labyrinth that is our healthcare system and our health insurance systems. I can empathize with those who have to brave the obstacles of these systems without the benefit of a law degree. Having worked on medical malpractice cases, I can also empathize with those who have to unfortunately navigate both the healthcare system and the legal system, both very daunting systems. When I consider the many reasons why I want to become a judge, I think about a harrowing medical malpractice case I helped my judge to review, research, and resolve. A woman post-cesarean who had sickle cell anemia informed her doctors and nurses at every step of the way, as did her husband. And her condition deteriorated, and like so many women, especially Black women, she was not heard and she was not treated correctly. Sadly, she died leaving a newborn and a toddler and her husband. And we unfortunately could not get full justice, only compensation. I will think about this case every day for the rest of my life. This and other courtroom experiences presented me this challenge to ensure courts address cases where every litigant is heard, that people who are likely enduring the worst experience of their life are not ignored, that every litigant can rest assured that they are heard and given the justice to which they are entitled, that they will have a judge who is empathetic and whose decisions are based on the facts and the law, by someone who listens and understands that those appear before them are real people with real concerns who deserve to be treated with respect, dignity, and empathy. Thank you.
Great. So we'll open up for questions, and if anyone has anything in the chat, please just raise their Zoom hand, but start in the room. Yeah. And if we could just, I guess we have to try to pass around the mic at some point, I guess, a little bit. But
Okay.
Steve Wagner asks, who have you been principal law clerk for?
I originally I started as an assistant law clerk to Justice Kenneth Sherman. And then I became a principal law clerk for Justice Marcia Steinhardt, and I am currently the principal law clerk for Justice Wayne Saida.
Okay. Any other questions?
Nothing, Sam or Alexis? I love teaching. I've been doing that since 2015, and I've had Sam since he was a freshman, and he is now graduating.
Oh.
Yes. I went to New York Law School. Graduated in 2012.
I guess that's it then. Wow.
So, all right, thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, so next up we have Turquoise Haskin.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Zoom attendees. My name is Turquoise Haskin, and it's a pleasure for me to be before you as a candidate for Civil Court Judge, Kings County, countywide. I would like to be your next judge because I believe I can use my skills, my experience, and my love for community to ensure fairness, justice, and equality for all. A little bit about me. I'm a native of Brooklyn. I've been an attorney for over 16 years now. but I have dedicated the majority of my career serving the people of Brooklyn in the capacity of a civil court, in the civil court, the People's Court with my judge, and in Supreme Court. And during that period of time, I've worked on thousands of cases with my judge, Justice Wade, that affects hardworking Brooklynites like ourselves, ranging from personal injury, medical malpractice, breach of contract. I've directly assisted my judge in presiding over close to 400 jury trials. I've done complex legal research, writing, and analysis. I have sat down with multitudes of self-represented litigants and helped them to resolve disputes during some of the most challenging chapters of their lives. Concurrently with my work as a principal law clerk or court attorney, I also serve as a special referee of uncontested matrimonial matters, which I was appointed to in that position by the administrative judge. In that position, I'm responsible for vetting divorce applications that are uncontested and issuing judgments of divorce. I also have the pleasure of serving in the evening as an arbitrator in small claims evening court at 141 Livingston Civil Court. And there I take the bench as a judge would. I take testimony, review evidence, and make a decision after trial. But unlike a judge, an arbitrator's decision is final, meaning that there's no right to appeal. Aside from my work in the court system, I have experience in the private firm setting as an associate at a small law firm, where I was responsible for making appearances throughout the 5 boroughs. I also had to do detailed research, legal writing, and analysis for the trial partners, and also make appearances in Kings County for compliance and intake conferences. I also have the pleasure of having governmental experience in key governmental agencies, such as the New York City Department of Housing Preservation and Development, the largest municipal developer of affordable housing in our nation, and the Attorney General's Office Charities Bureau. I marry my love for the law with my love for community. I have mentored over 40 students throughout my career, and I've had the pleasure of now introducing them as my colleagues. Many of them are practicing attorneys. 2 of them are graduates of Harvard Law School. I've also had the pleasure of moderating various virtual legal clinics throughout the pandemic. I served as a legal hands supporter throughout the pandemic, fielding calls from individuals that are facing legal strife. I also had the opportunity to work on a plethora of turkey distributions, clothing drives, food drives throughout the borough of Brooklyn. And I've served on the board of various bar associations, including the Brooklyn Women's Bar Association, where I was the board member, as well as the editor-in-chief of their news publication. I also was a board member of the Academy of Trial Lawyers and a board member of the Metropolitan Black Bar Association and their founding member of their Judicial Training Academy, which aimed to demystify the process of becoming a judge. I look forward to using my skills, my energy, my love for our community to ensure fairness, justice, and equality. And I thank you for your time.
Okay. That will open up to questions. Joan?
Yeah, I really want to ask this of Alexis too, and so maybe I'll get to do that later. Have you gone in front of the screen?
I have. I've been found qualified.
Yes. Yes, good, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Same here, 2 years.
Yeah. For those on Zoom, Alexis and Turquoise both said that they have appeared before the screen panel. Question from the Zoom. Just in case you didn't mention it, which judges have you worked with?
So throughout my whole career, I worked with Justice Carolyn Wade.
Any other questions? Anything on the Zoom? No. Oh, okay. From Linda. You ran for civil court last year, winning only 1 assembly district. What is different about your campaign this time around?
I would say that I learned so much last year. It was an experience of a lifetime. It's an experience I've never had in my life. So it was a learning experience. I learned the importance of continuous engagement throughout the entire borough. I learned the importance of pacing myself. I learned the importance of building relationships. So I come back a year stronger, a year smarter, a year wiser. And I would truly appreciate your support. I'm ready to take the baton and serve you with distinction and integrity.
Okay. Any other questions? Well, I know Alyssa had one, but it's basically the same question. It's about if you learned anything different, but you answered that already. So, Okay, so thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Senator, do you want a minute or so, or you're we're trying to go by ballot order, so you're ready, whatever. Next up is Senator from this very area, Senator Andrew Gennardis. Hey, Evan. He's enjoying the cookie.
Enjoying the cookie. Good evening, everyone. Sorry I'm a little bit late, but thank you for accommodating me, Seamus. Great to see you all in person. It's a busy time up in Albany because we're spending, as you all know, most of our time now these couple of weeks. It's going to get even more so up until March 31st when the budget is due. A lot going on up in Albany. A lot that I'm working on, a lot that, we're all trying to get done this year, especially given some of the things that we didn't get a chance to finish last year. So I appreciate the opportunity to come before you and give you a quick update, as well as ask for your support in your endorsement this year as I'm running for reelection. Don't know fully yet what the political landscape looks like. There's a rumor of at least one Republican challenger. But as you all know, I love the relationship that we've built together and the work that we've done together. And it's been really exciting over the last, I guess it's almost 2 years now that I represented this new district that includes really the heart of the 52nd. So just quickly, a couple of the highlights from the last year. I may have shared this before, but I'll share it again. We think this is my 6th year in the Senate. The last year in particular, I thought was incredibly powerful because, as I'm sure Joan can tell us, it takes a couple of years to hit your stride, to really understand how to get everything done, how to really work those levers of power, how to actually get some big lasting change. And some of the big things I was really excited about last year, two in particular, I'll highlight. Number one was the expansion of the child tax credit in New York State to 800,000 more kids, because previous to last year, children under the age of 4 were not eligible for the state's child tax credit. And I've been working on this proposal called the Working Families Tax Credit, which I'll get back to in a minute, which we think will help us reduce child poverty by 25% in New York. Couldn't get that all done last year, but the first step towards that was closing that income gap and capturing those 800,000 kids, putting an average of $330 back in the pockets of their family members. And that's really, for a family struggling, that's clothing, that's school supplies, that's food, that's a utility bill, that's, God forbid, a trip to the amusement park or the zoo or the aquarium or whatever families want to do to spend time together. So very proud of that, as well as of the statewide version of the Freelance Isn't Free Act, which basically extends payment protections for the nearly 3 million freelance workers who live in New York State and work in New York State. It gives them the right to a written contract. It gives them the right to timely payment. And most importantly, it gives them legal recourse when they are not paid on time for their services rendered. About 2/3 of freelancers in New York report being underpaid for their work, and about 70% report living paycheck to paycheck. So getting that check for, the photo gig or the design gig or the music gig or whatever you're doing as a freelancer, the writing gig, really it makes or breaks how these folks can survive. So incredibly proud that we got that over the finish line last year. Some of the things I'm looking forward to working to on this year. The first one, top priority, is tackling the mental health crisis amongst kids, especially as it relates to social media. I'm incredibly proud that the legislation I've worked on for the last year plus, that we tweaked. We've worked with the Attorney General's office and the governor, who both are in full support of this legislation. You may have seen the governor spoke about this during her State of the State. She put it in her executive budget proposal, my exact bills. One would regulate the algorithms that basically companies use to feed content to all of us. We all get stuck by this, right? We're scrolling for one thing. 3 hours later, we're still stuck scrolling on things that we never even started looking for in the first place, because these apps, based on our data, assume that they know what we want to see. And their goal is to keep our eyes glued on our phones so they can sell us more ad revenue. And they can sell us more ads so they can make more ad revenue. Huge impact on kids. The mental health crisis in kids, the rates of self-harm, suicidal ideation, depression, self-esteem issues, you name it, through the roof. Yes, daddy. So we think this is, regulating the algorithm, we think is a strong step towards protecting kids. It doesn't get to every ill caused by social media, but we think it's a targeted approach that will withstand legal scrutiny, which is really key here. Hey, buddy, you want to say hi? You want to say hi? No? Okay. That we think will withstand legal scrutiny, because a lot of other states have tried doing things here and they've all been shot down in the courts. because they've either tried to ban social media outright, like Florida just passed, or they've tried to ban specific apps. Hey, buddy. Or they've done other things that don't pass First Amendment muster. So we think we have the right approach. We're excited about. And then secondly, another big priority this year is going to be housing. We are in the depths of a housing crisis. Are you untying my shoes? We are in the depths of a housing crisis. We all know it. We've been talking about it ad nauseum. We have to build a lot more housing. We have to extend tenant protections to those that don't have it. We have to strengthen our safety net for homelessness prevention. We have to do all of the above, and we have to do a lot of it. I've been working on a bill called the Faith-Based Affordable Housing Act that would allow religious institutions to leverage their holdings and their assets to streamline the process by which they can develop truly affordable permanent housing. And it's just one piece of what we think of a larger puzzle towards tackling the housing crisis. And of course, we want to come back and try to pass the entire working families tax credit, which, if done, would combine the child tax credit and the earned income tax credit into one omnibus tax credit, because the universe of people who get both is very large, and it would pay it out quarterly. So you don't have to wait a whole year to get your tax credit. You'd get it 4 times a year, just like the federal tax credit did during the American Rescue Plan in COVID. So that's just a snapshot. I love this club support once again. Look forward to working with you all once again. And I don't know if you're doing questions or not, Seamus, or what we're doing. Or...
One question already in the chat from Eileen Doherty. Can you let me know why you supported the bill which removed the ability of beneficiaries of teachers/administrators to retain their pension with the T system? I've tried to meet with you for over 6 months and yet not received any assistance from your staff to do so.
The bill to remove the ability of beneficiaries of teachers, administrators. I think this was, if I remember correctly, I think this is a bill that the teachers union had asked us to consider in consultation with the teachers' retirement system as an administrative fix to issues that they found with administering benefits for folks in the teacher system. And that's how I think the bill came to our attention and why we had the support that we did for it. We're happy to follow up. I mean, I think this is a couple years ago that this bill passed, if I'm not mistaken. Are you tired? What are you doing, buddy? But
Actually, Senator,
how the bill came to our
Senator, that's
came to
not
us.
the answer.
Eileen,
Hold on.
That's not the answer I got from the union.
Well, a pension bill doesn't get passed in Albany without the union representing those beneficiaries weighing in and asking for some type of change to the pension system. And so I could tell you that we would not have passed the bill through my committee when I was chairing it without getting buy-in from the union stakeholders first, because they represent the pension, they represent the beneficiaries in those circumstances. So
Senator, I respectfully disagree. I spoke to the teachers union, and I spoke to the administrators union. It was after my father died. We had no idea, the union had no idea that this was going to be passed. So I would like to meet with you to discuss further. Like I said, I've attempted to do so for 6 months.
Sure. We'll follow up with you. I can just tell you assuredly, not a single pension bill ever passes without the union signing off on it in Albany. So I don't know who you spoke to with the teachers union or the administrators union, but without a doubt, every single bill gets signed off by the union because it's their members that are affected. And so we don't do anything without getting their approval, their blessing, and their review of every piece of legislation.
I would like to meet with you because that is not what I heard.
We have to move on, Eileen, in all due respect.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, there's just one question that sort of from the executive board in the past. So back in November, we passed a resolution in support of the Earn Time Act, Second Look Act, and Eliminate Mandatory Minimums Act. Do you plan on co-sponsoring those bills?
So I've looked at all 3 bills. What? I'll tie my shoes after I finish talking, okay? I looked at all 3 bills. I've signed on to the Earned Time Act and the Second Look Act. What's the matter? I have some concerns about the wording of the Mandatory Minimums Act. Not because I don't disagree with the premise of it, but I have significant concerns about that it applies to every single offense. Evan, you see I'm talking? Every single offense, including violent offenses. And Evan, yes. I'll put your shit in when I finish talking, okay? Especially violent offenses. And I'm concerned about giving judges that much discretion over violent offenses. And frankly, I think it's, we're all fighting these public safety battles. I think it's a terrible message to send that we don't want people committing homicides to not have a mandatory punishment for that. I think it's a terrible message for Democrats to send in this environment. Again, I understand the goal of the legislation. I think if it was revised to focus on nonviolent offenses, non-serious felonies. I'd have no problem supporting eliminating mandatory minimums because I definitely agree with that sentiment. So I've co-sponsored 2 out of the 3, and I'd be happy to support the 3rd with some adjustments.
Interestingly, that's literally the entire debate that we had at our November meeting. So, great minds. Any other questions?
The discrepancy between what the state gives to nursing homes, whether it's a Medicare or Medicaid patient, is enormous. And we don't have 4 doors. So when you go in as a Medicare or Medicaid patient, differential, you get the same treatment. And I know there's a letter being circulated by assembly members to the governor, put more money in a Medicaid piece. So is there anything happening on the Senate?
I think there is a complementary effort that
on Zoom. Can you just repeat the question?
Hmm?
Can you just repeat the question?
So the question was that there is a huge financial issue with nursing homes not getting a discrepancy rate between Medicare and Medicaid because the state pays Medicaid and the reimbursement rate is incredibly low, which is basically causing huge financial harms for these nursing homes, which provide the same level of care regardless of how the person is paying. And so if it's a Medicaid patient, they're still spending all this money that they're only getting reimbursed about 65, 67 cents on the dollar for. I believe that there also is a Senate letter going around. This has been an issue that I've been aware of for the last couple of years. And every year we have this fight to increase the Medicaid rate, and we have not been as successful at the same time, kind of putting additional burdens on nursing homes. Some of them which really need to up their game, but a lot of them which are really doing the right thing, but also suffering because they are not getting paid enough for the services. And at a certain point, you're going to close the doors of these facilities and have nowhere to go. And that's really a problem. And so, with the governor's budget, she's proposing changes to the Medicaid program to basically cut about $1.2 billion from it, which we have a lot of concerns about. This is not a time to be scaling back. This is a time to be investing more. So we're going to keep fighting on that front, Joan.
Okay. We have time for one short question.
Senator, why do you think your bill about the algorithm will withstand scrutiny when everyone else seems to be cut down, especially the extraordinarily pro-business conservative courts that we have now?
It's a great question. And so basically every other state that has gone down this road, but first of all, there's been no final rulings on the social media bills. There's been a lot of injunctions placed while litigation is ongoing. We think that our bill, what? You know, another cookie? You can have another cookie. Okay, go have another cookie. We think that we're going to withstand challenge because we're not regulating content. Hey, go with Seamus, I'll get you a cookie, okay? We're not regulating content. We're not going after the type of content. We're not saying that you can't show this content, this picture, this video, because that we think runs into significant concerns. We're saying that the way in which that content is being shown is problematic. And so I'd say 2 arguments or 2 general arguments. Number one, we don't believe that the algorithm itself is a form of protected speech that would need to go under a First Amendment analysis. You got one. All right, give me a high five. So we don't think that in of itself, because we're not touching content, we avoid the Section 230 issue under the Communications Act of 1996, as well as First Amendment issues. Even if we are wrong that the algorithm is not speech, and we firmly think that it is not, even if you were to assume that the algorithm is speech, we also have a long history in this country of allowing regulation over some types of speech, like time, place, and manner restrictions. We don't let you advertise cigarettes to kids. Right? And why is that? Because we know that cigarettes are bad for kids. We should not allow you to use algorithms to feed kids content on their phones for 12 hours a day because we know the content is become very, very harmful to them. And it's not just their mental health. It has real life consequences as well. 2 weeks ago, we lost a young boy in central Brooklyn to subway surfing. Why was he subway surfing? Because he sees everyone on Instagram doing it. And it's a whole subculture of folks on Instagram sharing videos with each other. And it becomes this, this thrill ride. And a 15-year-old boy lost his life because of what he was seeing on Instagram. So it does have real life consequences as well. And so that's why we think we have strong grounds for surviving legal scrutiny. We actually, originally when I got into this space, I took a very different approach. I copied the California approach on design code standards, which are now enjoined in federal court while the litigation goes on. And interestingly, California and then just today, West Virginia have both copied my algorithm bill. And so in both California and West Virginia, so blue state and red state, are both kind of seeing the way we're trying to take things here in a different way. And they've copied verbatim my algorithm bill. to regulate the algorithms specifically for minors. And all we want to do with this legislation is have it turned off as a default option, not get rid of it completely. You can turn it on with parental consent for users under the age of 18. The last time there's been any meaningful federal regulation or legislation around protecting kids on the internet was 1998, the Child Online Privacy Protection Act. In 1998, we were still all getting America Online discs in the mail to us, and we were all getting online, getting onto our screen names using dial-up. The world has changed 1,000 times over. The internet has changed 10,000 times over. We should not be operating with a legal framework from 1998. In the absence of the federal government doing the right thing, it's up to states to step into the void and do the right thing. And just yesterday, the city of New York announced that they were joining a lawsuit with 400 other school districts across the country against the 4 largest social media apps, basically accusing them of gross negligence for intentionally manufacturing their apps to harm kids. We're trying.
Thanks, Senator.
All right, that's it. Thank you very much, guys. Hope I can earn your support again. Thank you.
Want to say goodbye? Bye-bye. Bye, Evan. Okay, so now we're going to go back to civil court countywide. So next up we have Talia Berman.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for having me. I'm Tahila Berman, and I'm running for civil court judge countywide. I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I graduated law school in 1993. I have 30 years experience, minus some time that I took off to raise my children. I started out as an ERISA lawyer, which is it's employee benefits, pension law, labor, employment law. And I did that for several years. And then I had 4 sons, one after the other. So I took off some time to raise them. And then I wanted to rejoin the workforce, and I wanted to make a meaningful contribution to the community. So I decided to help a woman who was convicted of murder and conspiracy, to try to prove that her conviction was wrongful. So I assisted on a volunteer basis Alan Dershowitz, and I worked on the appeal. And then I decided that I wanted to, I was actually reached out to take over for Legal Aid Society to do the appeal of her co-defendant, who was similarly convicted of murder and conspiracy. And I did it pro bono, because I truly believe that I was doing an act. I was advocating for justice, because their convictions were wrongful. And so I retained a fingerprint expert to prove that the fingerprint evidence was insufficient to convict my client. I retained an eyewitness identification expert to show that the eyewitness identification was unreliable. I retained a ballistics expert to show that the ballistics evidence was unreliable. And I did not only an appeal, but what's called a 440 motion, which is a motion to vacate the conviction based on new evidence. And then I worked very hard on this, for pro bono, because and that's why I became a lawyer originally, is to fight for justice, because I really want to help the community across the board. Everybody deserves equal justice. And my mission in life is to help people. And then I needed a paying job. And so I met Justice Catherine Levine, and we immediately connected. And she didn't she wasn't sure whether she wanted to hire me because she didn't know me. I came out of nowhere. So I said to her, how about I write a decision for you and you'll see whether you like the decision, see whether, and that's how you'll decide. So I spent a night writing a decision and she loved it. And so I've been working with her since 2015. So for over 9 years, I've been working with Justice Levine, and I've learned so much. And I started out in the civil court with her for 2 years, and then went with her to the Supreme Court, where we've handled many complex cases that are very, and we worked in the city part for 5 years, very, very meaningful, because it's, the people's lives are affected so much by the actions of the city. And every case that I work on is very meaningful to me. And I love writing decisions. I love trying to make sure that that the trials are fair. I draft jury charges to make sure that the jury is charged properly. And verdict sheets. These are very important things. I'm an expert at legal research, and I'm able to write very succinct and fair decisions. I'm very efficient because I have very broad knowledge of the law. And I love the law. So I'm really very excited about this opportunity to run for judge. I feel very honored to be given this opportunity. And I would so much appreciate your support. I really look forward to this process. Thank you so much.
5 seconds to spare. Okay. So we'll open up for questions.
Yeah, the question I've been asking Peter, this meeting, how you.
Yes, I was found qualified.
Any questions hold on. From Steve Wagner on Zoom. Have you worked on any labor law section 240 decisions? What is your judicial philosophy, if any, when it comes to labor law section 240? Do you have any opinions regarding the first department or the second department on case law on 240 in construction accident cases? This is a very particular question.
I have to be honest that I actually have not drafted any extensive decision on that section of labor law. I'm sorry, but I'm eager to learn because we have cases before us that involve labor law, and I look forward to learning about it.
Any other questions? Okay, well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, so that wraps it up for countywide civil court. So now we'll be going into the race for municipal court. And just as a side note, for civil court, there are 3 openings, if I didn't mention that before. And now we're going to be going into civil court for municipal district 2, which mostly had for the parts that overlap with the 6. I wrote down the wrong number on my notes. Thank you, Howard. Yeah, so the parts that mostly overlaps with the 52nd is Park Slope. So first up, we're going to have Kenneth Gale. Yeah. Oh, I went by who I saw come in first. Okay, did you not come in? Did you come? Oh, okay. So do you want to come in, go first, or do you want to go last? Okay.
No objections from those who came before me.
Okay.
I'm Kenneth Gale. I'm a 46-year-old co-parent of a 12-year-old son, born and raised in Brooklyn. My dad immigrated from Kingston, Jamaica at 8 after being left behind by his mom and dad who came during the nursing shortage. He met my mom because her parents bought the house right across the street. Shortly after graduating from Tilden High School, they had me. By the time I was 8, my dad was in a horrible accident, wound up being one of the largest jury verdicts in Brooklyn, and my mom was the youngest person in Brooklyn to have a double mastectomy. For that reason, I was pretty much a latchkey kid, went to private schools, hung out in Brooklyn. It was a little rough, but I made it through, went to Brooklyn Tech, where I graduated, met some great people, learned about the importance of a really good public school education, got involved in a bunch of groups, the NAACP youth group, and I think between that and my mom forcing me to be a Leo, which was the youth version of the Lions, gave me my love for public service. From Brooklyn Tech, I went on to SUNY Westbury, where I became the vice president of student government after serving on the board before that. And what I noticed was that there's huge disparities in student populations. First, I went to University of Maryland, big campus, beautiful, Ivy everywhere, really good. Then the SUNY Westbury, which is a commuter school started by Nelson Rockefeller, and saw some things. Now, Nelson Rockefeller started this school because he thought that kids who had to work in Nassau and Suffolk County deserved a good education. Because of the EOP program that was started by Assemblyman Arthur O'Eve, what wound up happening was a lot of the on-campus population were Black and brown students. In fact, 98 or 99%. First thing I noticed when I got there was that there were no newspapers sold in the bookstore, the student union. So you had all these kids from Brooklyn, the Bronx, Queens, all over New York City who didn't have any access to newspapers. To me, that was horrible in a college. So that was my first call to action. I went to work calling all the big newspapers and got newspapers delivered to SUNY Westbury, where they're still delivered to this day. That was in 1997 that I did that. Going on, I graduated from SUNY Westbury and went to work for Peter Vallone at the New York City Council as a community liaison, serving the people here in Brooklyn, Central Brooklyn specifically. Did a lot of community service there, helped a lot of council members find groups, local groups to fund with discretionary income, did a lot of good work for my community. Decided to go to law school, went to Fordham Law School, and based on my work, was accepted into the Stein Scholarship, which is a scholarship, a prestigious scholarship for those committed to public service. I was honored by that. While I was there in the scholarship, I got to work on laws affected rapid anticipation loans by H&R Block and them, and a lot of the legislation we have today came out of that program. Really excited by that. Another thing that happened to me is I got to work for Neighborhood Defender Services, which the one I worked for was Harlem, and the actual program was started by Leonard Noisette. And what that is the community-based legal defense, criminal legal defense. And that makes a world of difference. I can tell you that, having access to legal services in your community for a community like mine that historically has problems with the legal community and criminal defense changes, game changer. But that being said, going to Rikers, working in that field, I really learned that we had tremendous challenges in front of us. And personally, I was way too paternal. So I set my sights on other public service. I graduated from Fordham and went to work for Bill Lynch, the Grumple Genius at Bill Lynch Associates, where I was able to work on numerous social justice programs and do the compliance for him. Great man, gave me access to a wealth of resources, information, and the ability to help my community. Bill Lynch Associates. So I started my own practice after that. I've been in private practice for going on 12 years. My private practice mostly focuses on residential real estate closings, personal injury, wills and estates. I'm from a Caribbean community, a lot of small businesses. A lot of the calls I get are not for litigation, but to help people with contracts, to help people stay out of litigation personally. And I'm proud to serve.
Yeah, you're at time now.
Okay, sorry.
So we'll open
Oh,
up questions.
Can I answer the question? Like a few questions I've heard everyone ask. I have not served for any judges, but I admire Judge Bruce Wright. He went through so much diversity in his early life. He got accepted to Princeton, and then they rejected his acceptance when they found out he was Black. He went on to become a judge, and in the face of tremendous public scrutiny, did what he thought was right from the bench and hand down rulings that he supported and stood the test of time, I believe. And I also admire Judge Paul Wooten, who's another brilliant legal mind from my community who helped Al Van and the members of VITA do some really good things for Central Brooklyn. Last year, I sat for the screening committee and withdrew my application. I was running for civil court countywide when they had some questions about some of my other businesses and some of the things that I was doing there, but none of the questions involved legal competency, ethical issues, or anything like that. Any other question?
So the question is, were you found qualified by the screen?
I wasn't found anything because I withdrew my application.
No one on Zoom. Any questions else for anyone else?
All right, I just want to say really quickly that there are 240,000 plus African-American men in Kings County, and we're losing 2 civil court county Black male seats, and the rest, I think we can count on one hand. And I don't know if that works. Thurgood Marshall said mere access to the courthouse doors do not guarantee a fully functioning adversary system. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Oh, we do. Oh, wait, no, that was a question from the previous thing. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Sorry, as a question. Okay.
Curious just about the screen. Would you mind saying another word about about your decision? So it wasn't for legal qualifications, it was independent.
Well, yeah, I own a wine and spirits store and a couple other businesses, cab businesses. You know, I really try to employ people in my community. So they had a bunch of questions about certain aspects of my business that I didn't receive from them, and I didn't have enough time to document it right. So they just offered me to withdraw my application so they wouldn't have to make a ruling one way or another. And I thought it was the politically astute thing to do. No, I'm trying to answer. So they had questions about the business and they had a time to make a ruling, and I wasn't able to get the documentation in time. So it would have resulted in likely a negative ruling.
Yeah, if you consulted.
So the question is that, have you appeared in this race for Sharif County as yet, or is that just the last time?
I did not appear in this race. This is a district race. And last time I was appearing county and I appeared before them. There are. No, I haven't appeared before. Thank you.
Just okay. Bridget, you have a question? Want to unmute? Bridget, you can speak. You're unmuted. You just muted yourself again, Bridget. Okay. Do you just want to put your question in the chat? Okay. How about she puts the question in the chat, you come and we'll try to answer it later. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Okay. So moving right along now. So we will go on to Norma Jean Jennings.
Good evening. How is everyone? It's good to be back to my home, IND. I am Judge Norma Jennings, and I'm running for civil court judge in the 6th Municipal District. I am currently the supervising judge of New York County Housing Court. I have been committed to public interest since I graduated law school. It comes from my background. I was raised by a single mother who raised her 7 children by herself. That's why. And we were raised in housing projects in Paterson, New Jersey. My mother was someone who migrated from the South She picked cotton in the hot sun of Georgia. So she fostered in me a commitment to helping others. And that's why I've done or dedicated my career to public interest. Graduated from Montclair State University in New Jersey. I went to Columbia Law School. At Columbia, I kind of felt out of place because everyone there wanted to work in a large firm, and I did not want to do that. That's not something that made me feel comfortable. I wasn't giving back by sitting there making a lot of money for other people. So at law school, at Columbia is my first introduction to housing court. I did a clinic at Columbia where we represented individuals who, before the Human Rights Commission, who believed that they were being discriminated against in housing. So after law school, I did work at a law firm because I needed to pay my student loans back. So I worked there for a couple of years, but again, I didn't feel comfortable. I didn't feel like I was doing anything productive and I wasn't helping people. So I left there and I became a staff attorney at the Brooklyn Neighborhood Office of the Legal Aid Society, where I represented marginalized people in housing court. Again, that's my introduction to housing court or been in housing court. But then after there, I left and I went to Gay Men's Health Crisis, where I represented individuals who were HIV positive. That was one job that gave me not pleasure, but I was very proud of doing it because it was people who were sick. But again, GMHC is a place where funding is important to get your money, to get your pay. So, and my wife and I at that time had our oldest son. So I left there at the time. Judge Kay, who was the chief judge of the New York Court of Appeals, expanded housing court. She passed the Housing Court Initiative, where she expanded housing court, where there were 2 court attorneys in each housing part. So I worked there. I've been in housing for over almost 25 years. And again, in 2019, I was appointed to the housing court bench. In 2022, I became supervising judge of housing court, and I'm in New York County. So I work closely with, I supervise 10 judges, 15 court attorneys, and make sure that the courthouse runs effectively and efficiently, but also that the judges are treating everyone who comes in with respect and dignity. So not only do I supervise, but I also have my own calendar. So I'm doing my own trials. I have a trial part as well, while I'm running around trying to make sure that every part in the courthouse. So again, I just want to continue to dedicate my career and the rest of it because I've been doing this for quite some time. I graduated law school in 1990. I graduated from Columbia Law School. I actually went to law school with Linda Wilson, who you guys supported last year. So Linda and I went to law school together, and I've been doing this, but my passion is still there. My passion to help people will always be there because that's how my mother was raised. My mother raised me. I remember what we went through, and I remember how people helped us out during the time. And as I went along, how people helped me. And that's what I want to give back. And I want to continue to do that. My wife and I am a member. I live in the 52nd. I've been in Concord Village for over 25 years. So my wife and I have raised our children here. They went to public school. My oldest now is a PhD student, and my youngest is at NYU. So I'm very proud of what we've done. And I want to continue, like I said, to give back to the community, to give back to the marginalized community, to make sure that people get their day in court and treated fairly, that their empathy, all the words that were given by the other candidates as well, but also just to make sure that the law is applied fairly to everyone, regardless of race, creed, sexuality, everything. I just want to make sure that people are treated fairly and that they get their day in court. And I think as a judge now, it's easy for me to make that leap to the next level because I know how to run a courtroom. I know how to run a courthouse. So I think I'm able to make that transition to civil very easily. And if it's not civil, criminal, I think I know how to do that as well because I know how to run a courthouse and a courtroom. I'm sorry. But to answer your question before you ask it, Joan is my neighbor and also my assembly person. I was found qualified by the screening committee, and I also going through reappointment process for housing court. So I was found approved by the Judiciary Committee of the Bar Association. So I've been approved by every panel I've gone in front of.
Ken, your phone light is on. Yeah. Don't want to blind anyone tonight. We don't need any trips to ER. Any questions from the audience and anyone on Zoom? Okay. Bueller?
I would just say I would love to have your support. And I hope that you will endorse me. Again, thank you so much. It's always, like I said, good to come home to IND. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, so last but not least, for this race, we have Janice Robinson.
Good evening, everyone. First, I'd like to thank Mr. President and the members of IND, both in person and on Zoom as well, for having me here tonight. My name is Janice Robinson, and I'm running for Civil Court Judge in the 6th Municipal District. A little bit about me. I am born and bred in Brooklyn, never lived anywhere else except when I was in law school. I currently live in Bedford-Stuyvesant with my husband of over 20 years. And my 2 kids, 2 teenage children who are in high school. One is at Brooklyn Prep in Williamsburg, and the other one is at Brooklyn High School of the Arts right over here on Dean Street. Bless you. A little bit about my education. Brooklyn schools all the way. Huddy Junior High School, Utrecht High School, go Utes, and Hofstra University in Long Island, and then American University, Washington College of Law in DC. A little bit about my professional experience. So I have been a civil litigator for over 20 years. I currently work at Travelers, where I am senior counsel handling contract disputes. I appear in the civil courts in Bronx, in Kings, in Richmond, also known as Staten Island, as well as New York. I'm in the motion part and I'm in the trial part. So I handle motions to resolution and I handle trials to resolution, as well as arguing appeals in the appellate division, 2nd, 3rd, and 11th district. So why am I running? Well, I have been in corporate litigation, working for private companies for my entire career. And even though what I do for my company is vital, I believe that it's time for me to start giving back to my community. I do volunteer work as time would allow while I'm at Travelers. So I volunteer and help pro bono advice, giving pro bono advice to caregivers and providers who are navigating the family court system through the Family Legal Care Program. I also help facilitate and organize events with Girls Inc., where we teach them the skills that they need in order to navigate college and become full-fledged responsible adults. Now, none of that is easy with respect to time, because I am also the parent of a special needs child. And if anyone knows what that's like, it takes time and it takes patience, because a lot of the behaviors that special needs children exhibit are atypical and can be very frustrating. So with regard to patience, which is something that I believe a judge needs to have, because whether or not we'd like to accept it, patience is a crucial skill to have when dealing with human beings in general. And especially when you are sitting on the bench and having to deal with people in front of you who may not get along, adversaries who can't come to any type of resolution. Patience is critical. And I always remember that whenever I'm in court dealing with an adversary who I might find challenging, I think to myself, I have a child with special needs. And my child with special needs is now a teenager with special needs. So now we have the atypical behaviors that are prevalent with children who are on the spectrum, coupled with the typical behaviors of a teenager who thinks they know everything and challenges every single thing that you tell them. And I remind myself that there is no one ever that I have encountered that will try my patience anymore on a daily basis than my child. So when I was younger, I used to work with my uncle. He was the assembly member for the 58th Assembly District, Nick Perry. So as a teenager, I was voluntold. So any of you who know who that is, it's sort of like you're kind of volunteering, but not really. You're being told that you must work with them. So I did that. And that is something that put me out in the community, allowed me to get to know his constituents. I helped him put together fundraisers, but more importantly, me appearing in civil court on a daily basis with calendars that are over 100 cases long at times has allowed me to view all of the judges in the civil court system and take from them all of the attributes that I think a judge should have. It's the best roadmap that I could possibly have. The over 2.7 million people in Brooklyn need fair, equal justice from a compassionate person on the bench that can take their situation into consideration. And I am that person who can handle that job. Thank you.
Any questions?
My question. So did you hear from the screen panel and how did you
I did not appear before the screening panel, and I did not do that because although I considered it when I thought I was going to be running countywide, once I decided that I would be running a district race, and it was my understanding that that was optional, so I did not follow through with that process.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity to appear before you tonight, and I hope that you will give me your support. Thank you.
And just as a programming note, per IND rules, which is a tradition we've had since we were very big on trying to actually create the screening panels, IND does not endorse candidates that have not been found qualified by the independent screening panel. So they will appear on our ballot, but if they are found to be endorsed, then we have to disqualify them. Okay. So with that, our last candidate. It's not in our constitution, but it's been a standing rule that we've had for as long as I've been a member. Yeah. Marty?
It's been the members' unofficial practice.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a rule in writing. The members have the ultimate say. In my experience, they have always followed that practice, but I don't think we could describe it as a fine rule.
Mm-hmm.
Members
Okay.
can do what they want.
Yeah. This is what I was told by Albert. Oh, Joanne, you have something?
Policy. It's a policy that we have followed for 20 years or so, if not more.
Okay. Okay, and just as a other note, also if anyone's on Zoom and like they have multiple people there, I'll answer that in 1 second. And they have multiple people there, please also just rename yourselves. This way we can make sure that anyone that's with you will also get their ballot if they're eligible. Okay. And certainly last but not least for our candidates up tonight, we have for female member of this Democratic State Committee, Sabrina Gates.
Good evening, IND, in person and online. I want to thank Seamus and the entire IND club for having me here to speak before all of you tonight. It is a great honor and humility that I stand before you today as a candidate for district leader of the 52nd. I have called the 52nd district my home for over 15 years. I love this place. I have lived in Brooklyn Heights. I love every street. I love every person. I love everything about it. And it would be such my honor to serve it and continue contributing to it and winning the way that I can. In our district, we are not just a collection of individuals. We are a community bound together by common goals and shared values. We are neighbors, friends, and partners in progress. And it is with this spirit of unity that I come before you today, ready to serve and represent each and every one of you in this room and beyond. As I embark on this run, I understand the weight and responsibility that comes with this position. It is a duty that requires dedication, integrity, and a steadfast commitment to the betterment of our community. I am prepared to shoulder this responsibility with unwavering determination and a tireless work ethic. But let me be clear, I cannot do this alone. Our district is only as strong as the collective effort of its residents. That's why I pledge to be a champion for inclusivity and collaboration. I will listen to your concerns, advocate for your needs, and work tirelessly to ensure that your voices are heard, both within our party and in those in government. I will work with our electeds to support their objectives and advance our neighborhoods. I will fight for issues that uplift and empower every member of our community and that better our party. And I will work tirelessly to build bridges of understanding and cooperation, both within our district and beyond. I will find opportunities to educate, inform, and serve those who traditionally not engage in aspects of our democratic process. But perhaps most importantly, I will lead with honesty, transparency, and integrity. I believe that trust is the foundation of effective leadership, and I will work tirelessly to earn and maintain your trust each and every day. In closing, I want to thank you for considering me for this important role. I am humbled by the mere possibility of serving as district leader of the 52nd of this most audacious district. Together, let us embark on a journey of progress. Thank you, and I welcome your questions.
Hey, have you ever been a poll worker?
Yes, I have. And I absolutely, I've had the pleasure of working with the poll workers for the past 2 years, and they are extraordinary. I love talking to them. They keep me on the phone for hours, talking to me about all sorts of things. But I do love them, and I did have an opportunity to work the polls because I did think it was important for me to learn that. And I am in the process of taking some additional classes so that I can see what some of the other roles entail as well. Yes.
As district leader, you're not just in the community, you're also a member of the state board and the state committee.
Yes.
What are your plans to do to help modernize, reform, if elected, the state committee, and what changes in the state committee, which a lot of people think are needed?
Absolutely. There's definitely a number of things that can happen. One of the things
Can you
is,
also repeat the question for those on Zoom?
absolutely, he asked what would I do to help reform the state committee, because as district leader, you're also a member of state committee, at least in Brooklyn, that is. In some of the other boroughs, it looks a little different. But can you hear me? Sorry, it's a little reverb. And so there are definitely a number of things. One is communication. From my understanding, people do not always get the information that they should in a malleable format. So that's definitely something that I would want to work on. I think that there's opportunities to build more coalitions even within our borough, so that we can strengthen our resolve to that end. So those are some of the things that I think I can contribute. But yes, absolutely want to serve as a voice for this district on state committee, and to let them know what's going on here, because we actually have a huge chunk and probably the most important chunk of voices that really need to be measured within that space.
Steve Bronstein, you have a question on Zoom?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
You're running in a contested election. Can you tell us the differences between you and your opponent Lydia Green? And also, can you tell us what your goal would be to work with, which is very important as district leader, to work with our esteemed assembly person, Joanne Simon?
Absolutely. So it's no secret to those who know me, perhaps it is to all of you, but I am a huge fan of Joanne. In my very early days in politics, I was one of the early members of NKD. And I actually moderated a panel where Joanne was running for city council. And I was super impressed because she was the only woman in a room full of men, standing her ground, speaking to the issues that were most important to the community which she wanted to serve. And so for the next time I've watched what she's done, I love how passionate she is about disability rights. I love that she is working on legislation around Alzheimer's, which has become really important to me, as I know many seniors who are experiencing that now. So there are just definitely things that I just think are wonderful, and she's been a huge advocate for this district, so we could do no better. But not to run the Jillian train. Um, I just would definitely be honored to work with her and support her, as well as all of our elected. I will say we're really blessed in the 52nd to have some extraordinary leaders representing us. And so whatever I can do to help support that, I will definitely do. That said, that doesn't mean that I won't challenge them when there are opportunities or things that I disagree with them about.
Okay.
And then you asked.
There's
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. You asked, well, I'm 6 feet tall, Black woman, and I bring all of that to the table. I don't really want to necessarily speak to what's different between us, but I can tell you what I want to do. I want to find ways to better engage our community in all aspects of our community. I love IND. I think it's a great organization. I love the work that you do. I love that we are all over, not just this district, but all over this borough, really advocating and fighting for democratic leaders and getting people elected who will serve the best interest of people. And now that said, I love working with different organizations. I love reaching out to people and talking to people. And I've had an amazing wealth of experience doing so through my community service work, through my church work, through other advocacy work that I've been engaged in. You know what? I'm gonna put this down.
Yeah. Well, the people on Zoom can't hear you.
Oh, got it. Okay.
Yeah, that's why.
Closer. Is that better?
That's
Is that better?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm trying not to yell, but I have a pretty lofty voice. Surprisingly, people think I'm very quiet, but I can project very well. I hope that answers your question. Does anyone have any other questions?
There's a few from
Absolutely.
the Zoom. Okay. These are very short ones, then we'll try to get to a longer one. What is your day job from Joanne? What is your day job? What local issues have been involved with this 52nd Assembly District?
I'm sorry, what was the second part of that?
What local issues have been involved within the 52nd?
Absolutely. So, where do I start? Okay, my day job is I'm a consultant. I do consulting marketing for both nonprofit organizations and also small businesses, which I have loved, working with people and helping them build up things. Also lately been working with some candidates. So I'm super excited about that. And they are not in this district. So that is my day job. And then the second part was
What local issues you've been involved with?
Sure. So I've been interested in a number of issues. Or in the early part of the BQE conversation, I was attending the meetings and introducing some conversation around that. There's tons of things that I think we can do in our district. I love that we are focused on things like climate change. I've been to rallies around that, been to rallies around housing issues, and also women's rights, because I'm passionate about things that are related to women. And
this is also this is a quick yes, no, from Bridget Farrell. Would you commit to supporting Joanne Simon for Assembly and not anyone else for the 52nd?
Sure.
Okay.
I mean, the honest truth is that Joanne has done a great job. I don't know that we get rid of something.
You want to call anyone or from here?
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. Susanna?
I totally appreciate, I really love everything you said. I just have a question that relates to a concern that I have about your role as a poll worker. So this has been, IND 52nd has traditionally been progressive reform club. And 2 years ago, the current county leader targeted some of the district leaders who are not progressive and not necessarily voting with her, and took away some of the district leaders' obligations and duties as liaison and recruiting poll workers. So those were duties that were taken away from the current district leaders and given to you, which had never been done before. And it was in a way to kind of punish, IND for our outspokenness. So just wondering if you can comment about how did that happen when that role was given to you and why did you take it, given there is an elected position that
Yeah.
you were supposed to handle that role?
So I will be perfectly honest with you. I don't know how this actually came about, but I will say, a board of elections knocking on my door, asking me questions continuously, can't avoid the question. At the end of the day, there are good human beings who serve as poll workers who need work. And the reality is that if I did not do it, that those things would be assigned by the board of elections. That's the reality. Number two, I actually did reach out to both Lydia and Aaron, and I have continually put anybody who they sent me on the roster. There are a few people that they gave me who I've called them and they did not call me back. But for the most part, anybody who has been sent to me, I did my best to advocate for them and also put them on the roster.
Sorry, but my question is like, this is the role that was already assigned to an elected and democratically
Yep.
elected candidate. So when it was assigned to you, the question is like, why did you take that? And how did that happen? That was my concern.
Yeah, again, so a board of elections literally called my home every day, sent me emails, because my name was listed, as was another person. And we could have chosen to not do anything, but that would have left a lot of people in a very bad space. And you can disagree, but I can tell you that the end result would have been the board of elections appointing them. And I love the Board of Elections. I've had some great experiences with folks there. They've been really helpful to me, but I will say that sometimes the easiest road is the best, and they'll pick a few people, and those few people will get the entire slate of time for early voting. And I just didn't see that as being very fair, given that there are so many people who need jobs and want to work.
We have time for one more question. Okay. You can call. Okay, come on.
Actually, it's a question that's on the Zoom.
Oh, you want me to read out? Oh, yeah, that's you're gonna yield the list, I guess. Okay, this is the list's question then. IND is a reform-minded club that often tries to push county to be more transparent. Can you speak to your ties to the county leader and how you would voice disagreements with her?
Absolutely. I mean, I think we're people like anybody else. We disagree and we disagree. We agree and disagree with people that we know all the time. And I have no qualms about telling people how I feel about an issue. I like Ranice. She's a very nice person to me. That has been my experience with her. She's been nothing but helpful and supportive to me in a variety of ways. But now that said, there are many times that we disagree. For instance, I can tell you, I did not necessarily agree fully with the Justin Brandon situation. And I, in fact, went out and knocked doors for Justin. And I have knocked doors for other candidates that IND has supported that perhaps the county chair has not. So be clear, I am a person who is of my own mind and own choices about the things that I am passionate about. And support, because I do think that this is an opportunity and a time and a space where change is going to happen and change is happening. And so that's the space that I stand in. As far as transparency, you have to be at the table in order to push for transparency. And some of that comes from the people in the room, right? So do you know some of the things that I have realized over the past couple months, even in speaking to other district leaders who have been in the space? There's no manual for how to be a district leader. There's no notes that give people who are coming behind you information about how to be a district leader. All of these things, as we're talking about reform and engagement, those are things that we should be building, right? When I talk about the poll workers, the one thing that I had the opportunity to do, I didn't know anything. I had to make a list of all the positions, what they entailed. How do you seek out people? What does it look like? I did that, and I started doing that. So the person who comes behind me will be in great shape to be able to do those things.
Okay, so that's time.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Hitting it over like it's a mace. Yeah, that's how you do it. I don't ask me how I know these things. Okay, so before we get into breakout for club discussion, I just have a few announcements. So with like some upcoming events. What? Who? Yeah, Lydia spoke at our previous meeting. So, those of you that do not know, this weekend is caucus weekend up in Albany. It's a really great time. A lot of workshops and networking events, and also some awesome parties.
Posting day in the assembly room at 3:45. So if anybody is there, feel free to stop by. AM Lucas happens to be the sponsor, but it should be really good. The DA is on the panel.
Actually, just want to repeat that for those on Zoom.
On Saturday, the 17th, I'm hosting a panel at 3:45 with some of my sorority sisters. They'll be in assembly room, in the assembly parlor, excuse me. So it should be really good. It's around voting. And so as we know, District 52 has the largest voter turnout, but we really want to see how we can engage other districts and help fully bring out the voter turnout as we go into a really crucial election year and what that looks like. And so I think, some of the voices in this room can lend to that conversation.
Great. And also another panel, I don't have the time or location, but I know our Assembly member Simon and also Senator Roxanne Prasad is going to be doing a panel on the science for reading. It's going to have panelists Pitar Jeppe, Nikwan McLean, Naomi Pena, and Mary Goodwin Aquendo. And actually, Mary and Pitar are actually former IND members. And Pitar also used to be Joanne's chief of staff. So, it's all part of the IND family there. And I know in attendance will be School Chancellor David Banks. So anyone who's interested in that, it's in our email with links to register and all that. It's a really good time. Those of you that are members of the county committee for the 52nd, we have an assembly district committee this Tuesday, the 20th at 7 p.m. It's on Zoom. It's mostly going to be somewhat pro forma, I will admit, as chair of that, but we are trying to do quarterly meetings. This way we actually can show that we are meeting and doing work as an ADC. If anyone is a member and is unable to attend, this is way we can make sure we have quorum because it's actually a very high standard. We do have proxies available, so you can write in whoever you want as your proxy. Just give them to me this evening, and you'll be set there. Next up, next Thursday, the 22nd, we do have there's a rally with our friends at Save 63 Tiffany. It's at 63 Tiffany Place. It's at 12 p.m. I know Joy's very involved with that because that is her building. So if anyone is available during the day, we would really encourage you to come and show your solidarity for that. And then last but not least, and actually, Suzanne, I'm going to put you on the spot in a second. Of course, after this meeting, then we're going to be putting our petitions together, sending them to the printer. But of course, we need everyone to pick up their petitions. We have the space at the community room at 10 Clinton Street scheduled to use. So we will be using it on February 26th from 4 to 8 p.m. and then on February 27th, 28th, and 29th from 5 to 8 p.m. So that's where you can pick up your petitions. This is where you can get all of our candidates as well as yourself if you're running for county committee on the ballot. And to speak more about county committee, I'm bringing up our sort of de facto coordinator, Susanna.
Yeah, I just follow Joan and Joanne. That's how I do it. Okay. Yes. Love to be on the spot. County committee. Who is ready for it? Yeah. Okay. I see a couple claps, all right. So, we're recruiting more people to be on county committee. This is very important. Also, it is easy to do. It sounds like a lot, but there are a couple of meetings. If we reform the county committee, maybe we can do a little more work. But IND and the 52nd have always had a very strong participation in county committee. We have a good voter turnout. We have a good commitment to democracy. If you are not on county committee and live in AD 52, would love to talk to you. Basically, we'll pair you up with other people and you will have to talk to your neighbors about why they should support you and sign your petition for county committee. And then, usually you're not on the ballot because they're not races, but then you join thousands of other Brooklynites who care about democracy and civic participation. Why is it important? Well, it's kind of fun to talk to your neighbors, right? It's kind of fun to talk to them about political things. And it's also much easier when you say, can you sign this petition for me rather than, somebody else? That's kind of a cool thing. But it also is the ground party of the Democratic ground floor of the Democratic Party. It is just where a starting ground. So you will talk to your neighbors, meet with your neighbors. What can we do? We can register more people to vote. We can help Democrats win elections. We saw how important this was a few elections ago, right? Last election, how we need a strong county and we need a strong state Democratic Party to really push some of these elections. These have real implications on the policies that affect all of our lives. So we could be doing so much more. So if any of you are interested, please talk to me and make sure you let me know that you're down to do this again. All right. And it'll also be fun. You'll get to talk to me, Seamus, Alyssa, Joan, Joanne, other people from IND. So I promise some good conversation.
Great. And we've got in the chat that our assembly member would like to discuss what's going on with the redistricting. Joanne?
Yeah, hi. Very quickly, if you haven't heard already, their new set of maps was voted on today by the Independent Redistricting Commission. A lot of chatter in the news media about what they think about the races. But the districts, it looks like they have one set of maps. That is a big help compared to 2 years ago when there were two sets of maps, which is why things ended up getting so horribly messed up. And so that is a very positive thing. However, the legislature is not back in session till the 26th. It is possible if there's a conference and there's agreement, we can have a bill introduced and be able to vote on it on the 26th. That's possible. There's been a lot of rumors about whether or not that can happen and whether the congressional race would either have a reduced petitioning period or, have to run in August. I don't really see that happening. But I also have not conferenced with my colleagues. I do know there was a report that Jay Jacobs said that maybe we need to look at these really carefully since Lee Zeldin thinks it's a good idea. I think that basically probably a race or two is going to be closer than people suspected might be if the Democrats gerrymandered. Which they did not do. And let me remind everybody that for 50 years, New York State was gerrymandered for the Republicans. And they don't like giving up that power, but it was gerrymandered for the Republicans because they were in charge of the state Senate. And state Senate is who leads on districting. So let us remember it was not tabula rasa to begin with in the first place. Locally, I don't see any changes to the 10th congressional district. There might have been a tweak here and there in a very minimal way, but that district is pretty much intact. And so I don't think it's going to present any kind of issue for us in the 52nd in a local way. But we'll stay tuned to see what's happening. As I said, the maps just came out today. We haven't had a chance to conference it. We might do some conference this next week. I'm not entirely sure about that, but we'll see. There is possibility that we can all be on the same petitions. I just don't know exactly how we do that. But I think from an operational point of view, congressional candidates might just have their own singles. And much like we had to do for the presidential primary and the slates, carry two sets of petitions, one for the congressional member and the others for the rest of the candidates in the 52nd. So that's just my sense at this time. But I wanted to make sure I raised that issue for people so you were aware of it. And also, thank you for mentioning caucus weekend. I will say that at the moment, I've been told two different places that we're going to be having it. And I'm waiting for somebody to tell me where actually it's scheduled for. But we will have a flyer available tomorrow. We'll probably do some social media on it and send it out to people. But it's a great panel. It's a very important issue. As you know, I've been talking about this for years. And I'm very honored that Chancellor Banks has said he wants to come to the session and to make sure that he knows when it is. So it's 2:15 on Saturday, whether it's in the Assembly chamber or whether it's in meeting room 2, I got no idea. We're finding that out by tomorrow. So I hope to see some of you up there. And if not, wish us luck. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Joanne, one correction. I think that is important, even though it's a relatively minor change in the scheme of things. It's somewhat large in the scheme of the 52nd. Concord Village, according to the map, was moved from the Goldman district to the Velasquez district.
Okay, see, it was hard to tell when I looked at the map. It looked a little funnier up top there, but I wasn't sure. Well, that means that we'd have petitioning in her district. We really, we only overlapped with Nydia right around the Navy Yard in the last cycle. And so if that happens, then that might change whose petitions we're carrying in that small area. So thanks for pointing that out, Howard.
Okay. So thank you, Assembly Member. Okay.
You're
So
welcome.
now comes the part of the meeting where we have to basically kick oh, okay. Marty?
Yeah, I just want to point something out. We all know that the 52nd has more judicial delegates than every other assembly district in Brooklyn. But if you look at the state committee's party call, the 52nd and the number of judicial delegates is based on the Democratic turnout for governor. The 52nd has more delegates than any of the other 149 assembly districts in New York State.
So everyone can give themselves a pat on the back because we are so great at voter turnout. Okay, Joy. All right, let me just give you the mic. Yeah, it's easier.
In regard to the candidates, due to the error on the part of the county administration to not properly inform potential candidates, clubs, and district leaders of the correct number of judicial seats available in Brooklyn, I move that the club suspend the unwritten or custom rule of endorsing screening committee approved candidates only and abide solely by the qualifications of the bylaws for this singular vote tonight on district candidates.
Okay,
I want to second that motion.
John, you are not a voting member yet because okay, Sabrina seconds. Is there any discussion? What?
Yeah, I don't see why. County has been misinforming people for years. Everybody just thinks it's the county rules. We've had this debate before. There have been other people that were similarly disenfranchised or unable to get our endorsement, who we love and have supported thereafter. And of course, individual members can always support anybody. This is about the club's endorsement, and it doesn't preclude any member from supporting a candidate. Indeed, we have often been involved in races that we didn't endorse in because they didn't overlap with the 52nd, for example, like Justin Brannan and Andrew Gennardis when he first ran, and Max Rose and many others. So that doesn't limit individual members' activities. But I do think that it's important that people understand this is a longstanding policy that IND has had, and other people have been rudely awakened as well.
For clarification, since I think there may be a little confusion, as I understand it, the motion is basically to allow for any candidates for 6th municipal district to appear on not only on our endorsement ballot, but if should they win, to also will appear on our petition. Okay.
Yeah, that's what the motion is.
It's never been a rule. It's something that we bring up every time. The club invariably does what it wants. If the club votes a majority for a candidate who hasn't been through the panel, I think that candidate is the endorsed candidate. If the club chooses to adhere to its tradition, then they won't be endorsed. I think that's always been the policy. We pointed out, and there's always been a strong feeling about it. But the other thing is, if we were talking about the county-wide candidates, this might be relevant. But there was never any misimpression about the number of seats available in the 6th municipal court district. And yes, county has a policy that they make it an option for candidates to go through the panel. And people can still use it as persuasive authority if they choose to do so, and not use it as persuasive authority if they choose to do so. Some of us feel it's important that everyone go through every screening panel they have the opportunity to go through. Some of us don't feel that way, or feel that, but I don't see that it's necessary. If we vote a majority, that person will be endorsed. We've never had a circumstance where we've tried to endorse someone where that didn't happen. So
Okay.
I don't think that we need to.
Okay. Just for those on. Mhm.
We choose to ignore that. It seems to me there's no binding charter that says we can't do it.
Okay. For those on Zoom, because just to summarize what Howard said, effectively it's a moot issue. It's just that it's practice, but not necessarily a standing rule.
Moot. How is it moot? How is it moot? Because it's maybe not competitive races, then it's moot. But the reality is, just because you feel like it, you shouldn't just change a rule that we've followed for years and years and years and years.
Wait, whoa. Howard,
Really.
it's
you
a
were
policy.
representing Howard.
It's a policy that the members have adhered to. Listen, I set up before county ever had a screening panel. I was the head of the Reform Coalition for Kings County in 1973, and we set up an independent screening panel. County didn't have a screening panel back then. For years, we pushed it. I feel very strong about this policy, but a policy is something that the members set, and the members have always adhered to it, but it's not a rule that tells you can't vote for somebody. It's a consideration, policy consideration, not a rule.
Joe, next.
Another mic. When we talk about the policy, for me, it's like the screening panel is like a vetting committee. I'm not qualified. I'm not a lawyer. We've always relied on the screening panel made up of qualified lawyers. We've had people on IND who've been appointed in previous years, like Jason, like Stephen, right? They've been our representatives on the screening panel. And so they go through reams of paper and they look at those.
Yeah, I muted them.
They've looked at the person's qualifications, they've checked their backgrounds, they look through their legal documents. I'm not qualified to do that. So for me, knowing that a person went there and presented all those qualifications, as many of the candidates have, means that they've gone through a process, and the people who are qualified to look at those particular pieces of work know at least that they're qualified to sit on the bench. I'm not qualified to do that. I depend on their opinions and their rankings of those people.
Oh, wait, sorry. Did you have?
I think Joan answered it. Michael, I was just wondering, I'm a little bit lost in the rules on the screening panel, but how does the adhering to this help IND? Is it the vetting?
Well, for me, it's the vetting, because I mean, I could sit down and talk to a bunch of candidates, and as a former district leader, I did that. And I could ask them about certain things, but I couldn't look at their writings. I couldn't look at the cases that they brought. I didn't really have the wherewithal to go. I mean, look at what happened in the congressional district, right? Nobody vetted that guy properly. He lied about everything, didn't he? Nobody looked at it, and I'm not qualified to look at writings of lawyers or judicial people sitting on, or judges. I relied on that panel made up of qualified people, all lawyers themselves who practice in the courts, to look at that material, and it takes them hours to do it. It's a big commitment. They don't get paid for it.
Sorry, Joan. Okay, so I'm
Yeah,
just, the
sure.
rules are a bit complex. I've got lost. And in the district, the district courts, it's optional, and we didn't tell anyone that this.
No,
not true.
The county has their own rule. It's not our rule. Our policy is everybody.
Carry on the petitions, countywide, only candidates who have been gone through the screening panel and recommend and found qualified. They don't apply for petitions. District leaders may ask them to bind in district races. So a lot of people say, I'm running in the district, I don't need this. Some clubs have their own screening panels and don't even give any regard one way or another to the county panel, like CBID. We have always chosen, since the newer version of the screening panel was implemented after some scandals in the courts and following matrimonial judges, I think, among other things. We have chosen again and again to participate in the screening panel, which Joey and Simon push very strongly for, and only support candidates who have gone through the screening panel ever since that time. But I don't, if there is a rule, I have, no one has shown it to me. I've always heard there's a rule. I don't see a rule anywhere.
So the only question then is, it's policy. Okay, got it. So the only question I have is it helpful? Is it helpful to IND in this case? And it's unclear to me what the role of this policy then is to IND in the.
Well, in policy with this direct right, it's how the members voted. Never endorsed the candidate who wasn't screened.
One thing that Howard said struck me, which is that other clubs do their own panels. And to me, it sounds like what IND has done historically is delegate that to the screening panel. And
Okay, so that's wrong.
no, we don't take their, because Joanne, what I'm saying is that we don't do our own screening panel. We rely on the screening,
Oh, I don't know who does do a screening panel, frankly. There may be a club or two, but name me how many functional clubs exist, number one, let alone do a separate screening panel. They may have done things in the past, right? So I'm not aware of any club, certainly not in this neck of the woods, that does their own screening panel. They don't. And one of the reasons we fought for the structure of the screening panel to be what it is when we were leading those reform efforts years ago was because we wanted something that everybody could rely on. That would be an even barometer that required certain things of candidates, and they were the same thing of every candidate that was required to go before the panel. And the people who serve on this panel spend tons and tons of time going through, reading every opinion, going through all of the records, going through private financial information to make sure that people are ethical, and are qualified to serve. And county changed their rules years ago. I was still a district leader when they changed that, that the municipal districts, because, some of the district leaders didn't care, and it was all about the district leaders with county. But this is about our club, not about our district leaders per se, right? So I actually was supporting for years and years and years. And the question is then, what about all of the other people who could say in the past, well, I could have said the same thing. The reality is that, as I said, nobody is limited from campaigning for somebody or helping somebody or supporting somebody individually. It's really about the club. And do we throw out the baby with the bathwater after we have been the leading reform club in the city of New York, let alone the borough of Brooklyn, by adhering to those ethical practices?
Joanne, I was actually supporting that. What I was saying is that we don't do it ourselves. Instead, we support this countywide vetting mechanism. I have been on the judicial screening panel. I have never, as a volunteer, spent more hours on something in my life. Calling people, reading opinions. It was a lot. And I do think that the screening panel serves a very important function that is not something that every club should have to do. And what I want to know, not for tonight, but why isn't county telling people who want to run that, hey, you know what? you probably should go through this panel because it's not required, but some clubs may require it for their endorsement. That seems like a failure on the county level, which does not surprise me.
Okay, we'll let's have Joy and then we'll wrap this. We go to a vote.
Okay, I just want to give a point of clarification. The governing authority for the club is Robert's Rules of Order. As per Robert's Rules of Order, an unwritten rule is called a custom. Anything that you have in your bylaws supersedes custom. I know this because I'm a professional registered parliamentarian, credentialed by the National Association of Parliamentarians. And it has been, and to speak to your point, this confusion with not even telling people how many seats there were, people may have made different choices. These candidates have done things based on the information that they previously had. And at the last minute, these changes come out, which, now people are left to scramble. And we have the authority to bring this to the club to vote on. Can we supersede can we suspend this custom for this particular race? Now, to your point, Joanne, no one else has ever brought this up. That's not
true. Not true.
But if you're saying if you do this now, no one else had the opportunity to do it. This is how you do it. You have to.
No, that's not what
reclaiming my time. Reclaiming my time. What you have to do is you take a vote. And if people don't want to do it, then they won't do it. But this is the proper way to do it by Robert's Rules of Order. I made a motion, it was on the floor, and if people want to do it, great. If people don't want to do it, great. But that's how Robert's Rules of Order works. As a parliamentarian, bylaws do supersede custom. And if something is brought to the floor, it is up to the members to vote.
Okay, that was going to be our last one. So. Okay. Okay, Sabrina called the question. Second on that? Okay, second from Lynn. Okay, so with that, we're going to do a show of hands. For those in person and on Zoom, for Zoom, please just raise your Zoom hand. And if you did not receive an sample endorsement ballot, please do not vote. And I know every single one who's a voter, so please don't make me call you out. And same goes for everyone in the room. If you're not a voter,
What's the motion for? People are raising different things. Who's?
Well, hold on. Okay, there's a question then for clarification.
Majority of people in this room and online vote for a candidate that's not been through that. Are they going to appear on the petitions or not? Because if the answer is yes, then this vote doesn't matter. We shouldn't even be passed.
The question from Howard is, if this motion does not pass and someone is passes the endorsement process and our vote, though they have not appeared before the screening panel, will they appear on our petitions? The answer currently is no, based on our custom. Well, yeah.
If it's a policy, the members support
Yeah.
the policy.
Yes. Well, Marty, we're about to go into a vote, so.
Policy
Okay.
anymore.
Okay.
It's not a rule where you're disqualified.
Yes. Okay. Okay. The question's been called, Marty. Yes. Okay. So all those in favor of suspending the policy for this meeting only, so members, any candidate who is appearing or running for the 6th municipal district that has not appeared before the screen panel is eligible to receive our endorsement, please raise your hand on Zoom or in person. 1, 2. Talia, you're not voting. Please don't. As I said, please don't make me call you out. I will. Okay, Melinda. Okay, I count 4 in favor of voting to suspend the rule. All those opposed. Oh, okay. Suspending the custom. Thank you. 1, 2, 3. 6, 7, 8. Okay, I count 10 opposed. Any abstentions? Yes. Okay. 1, 2, 3. I count 5 abstentions, so that the vote is 4 in favor, 10 opposed, and 5 abstentions. The motion fails.
Yeah, interesting.
Okay, so with that, now comes the sort of interesting part. So now we're going to go into club discussion. So anyone who is not a member in good standing, But well, actually, no. Candidates they can appear for their for their vote when we discuss them. Yeah. So anyone who is not a member in good standing, we love you, but please get out. And I will start. I'll also open up the Zoom discussion room. Yes, Howard. Well, I was actually about to say that if any member who is a candidate, okay, so would someone be willing to volunteer themselves as the runner, the one to basically tell any candidate who's currently physically here to come back, to go and get them that they can come back? What? Okay, Matt. Okay, so any candidate who is a member in good standing, please take the elevator down to the 9th floor. And Matt, I don't think you have your number, so I'll text. Well, yeah. So we're gonna go by ballot order. So you'll go by U.S. Senate down, Congress. Okay. Yeah. No, but if a candidate, if a candidate is in good standing, they can stay until we get to their race. Yeah, Alexis, you can stay for the time being. So everyone on Zoom, give me hold tight for a moment while I open up the breakout room, and also I will be ending recording. So hold on a second. Hey.